How's it going, guys? If you don't know me, my name's Liam. I pretty much just do stuff and talk about what I've learned so that hopefully it saves you some time. But today we got Michael on. So, Michael, just hop right into it and kind of share your story, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Yeah, man, I'm nervous. My heart's beating. No. Like jokes aside, yeah, I'm Michael. I've been posting on YouTube for a little while. Liam saw me. I saw his stuff. We kind of connected. But a little bit about me. I was just in high ticket closing. Right. I went from quick rundown, high school student, no idea what I'm going to do. Decided, you know what? Let's not get in debt and let's not go and pursue some crazy degree that I'm not passionate about. Let's get into trades. And what I did was I did a co-op end of my 12th grade year. Didn't love it too much, but I'm like, you know what? Let's stick it through. Let's be consistent. Let's be persistent. So I went into trades right out of high school. And what happened was I pretty much had the almost the worst experience of my life, but one of the best lessons of my life. I mean, I spent 1.5 years jumping from one company where I did drywall to a company where I did high-rise electrical. I went to low-rise electrical in the union after that, which is exactly what I wanted to do. Not exactly, almost what I wanted to do. And then I joined the elevators, and every single time I'm out here looking for better and better and better. What I realized is in no way, shape, or form will I stay in the trades. I mean, it doesn't matter where I get to. I didn't like anything enough. And to be honest, looking back, it was one of the biggest blessings because I think if there was one or two of those companies that I was really applying for that didn't accept me, if they would have accepted me, I don't know if I'd be on this call today. So looking back, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, but that's where I really started my whole journey. I started to, I always tell the story, but I was on my very first day of construction after high school. And I still remember the subway was packed, the bus was packed at 5 a.m. And I was like, holy shit, this is the rat race. I was expecting it to be empty. I still remember it. And on that day, I went ahead and I went on YouTube or Audible or something. I found Think and Grow Rich. I just heard about it a little bit, like a couple of days before from like Luke Belmar or something, and Atomic Habits. And I listened to those two books every single morning for the next couple of days. And from that day on, I got addicted to reading and mostly audiobooks. I started to learn about making money online and that kind of stuff, and just how like people who are really successful are business owners, right? And they have assets and skills. They're not, 9 to 5 employees or whatever. And just kind of wrapping it up, I mean, one thing led to another. I did drop shipping, failed really hard. And I realized after a very long time that sales is where it's at. So now, after being in sales for a year and a half, I'm kind of a free agent while also being in a new role. And I'm every single day just consistently trying to master the skill. And I'm working with a couple of students right now, teaching guys similar to me a couple of years ago how to get good at sales. So that's a little intro on me. I'm 21 years old now.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be switching gears a little bit, but I know this
Hmm.
is unique. This is something that I would want to know from you.
Hmm.
You you're in a relationship, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So, one thing that I feel like so many people chasing success or going after entrepreneurial goals
Hmm.
struggle to balance is
Hmm.
relationships.
Yeah.
You often hear just cut out girls completely,
Sure.
um, or there's kind of the whole Sigma crowd where
Hmm.
they are like,
Yeah.
women are worthless, whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then there's
Yeah.
also people who say having a relationship is kind of a superpower.
Hmm.
So, how do you feel your relationship has influenced
Sure.
your aspirations?
Sure. No, that's a great question. And to be honest, I'm asking myself that every single day. But no, like first of all, for context, it's my first ever like super serious relationship. I'd go on dates with girls. I loved flirting. I loved all that kind of stuff. But actually, like being locked in and spending time with those girls has been close to 5 months. So I'm still kind of a newbie in that way. But what I've learned pretty much is like you this is like almost be my advice, and I'll talk about how I balance it, is like the one mistake I feel like I made, and I don't regret it too much, but I think it's a little bit of a mistake, is I think with all kinds of relationships that you have with people that you care about, starting them off one way and then making a big change later on, the person who you're having this relationship with is going to be very surprised and taken aback. And the way I kind of started off my relationship was being very attentive and being very charismatic and very, I'd look past like lot of red flags and this and that. I was just super there focused. And, as time passes, you get a little more comfortable, you become a bit more trusting of the person. And sometimes you just tell them what you think and how you feel. And that might lead to like one little spark there, it might lead into a bigger deal or an argument. Or, you might feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But you said it anyways. And what happens is you have to kind of balance it where you go from at the beginning not knowing this person and maybe putting on a bit of an act. Then later on, they know who you are, you spend time with them, you're now being more of yourself, and you realize they either judge you a little bit more
Mm,
or maybe you just aren't the best match in the world.
mm,
And I wouldn't say with my girlfriend that's necessarily the case, but I've found that there are snags. So I think one of the best things I could have done was from day one, although I felt like I was really myself, there are ways in which I could have been even more authentic. There are ways in which I could have been even more real. And I think what's most important is like values and beliefs and like the really core things that no one wants to talk about. But I think they're so important because those things you'll butt heads on. And like balancing it, I think just as a man, I think a lot of guys are watching this, but if you're a girl, same thing. I think you can take a similar approach. You're probably a little more masculine if you're watching this. But I think just being able to set boundaries and being like super honest and transparent. Like your partner needs to know what you're chasing and going after. And if they don't, right, you're going to be kind of a piece of shit partner to them and you're not going to have fun either. Right. They got to know what ride you're taking them on. And if they don't, then no one's going to have fun. So like that's kind of what it is. And then past that point, if there's that level of understanding, any small mistakes you make or any lack of attention you give them, hopefully it's understood. Right. I still think it's a very delicate balance and it's definitely not easy. That's one more thing I'd tell everybody. Like, do not go into a relationship if you're entrepreneurial or business minded and expect it to be easy. You'll have a honeymoon phase and like you'll have a lot of fun for a little while, but things will get a little bit harder. And you do have to dedicate some serious effort into making things work, or at least work as well as you want them to. So, no, it's challenging, it's very rewarding. And I genuinely believe like being yourself from day one is going to pay dividends to everybody. Because that person, if they leave you, good, they didn't like the real you. If they stay with you, even better, they like the real you. You don't have to pretend to be somebody else forever. Right. I know Oxford Mosey talks about this stuff, but it really, really is true. Yeah.
well
That's
said.
what I'd
But
say.
Hormozy, I watch his videos on this stuff obviously because he's
Yeah.
so credible, and it seems like he has a great relationship. But he has a quote where he says, "How you attract them is how you have to keep them." And I think one thing I
Mm,
do
yeah.
falsely is when I'm getting into a relationship, it's like the chase, and so I
Sure.
overextend and I do some things that I probably won't do. I
Yeah.
buy them
Yeah. Yeah.
flowers and stuff, and they get used to that, and I'm incredibly polite. I'm putting in a bunch of effort, and then as soon as I get comfortable, I kind of dial it back, and then
Exactly.
the woman kind of feels that shift. So I guess my question is, do you feel like that sort of high and then drop when you guys finally
Hmm.
see the real other, do you think that's inevitable, or do you think that there's a way to just be super upfront and
Hmm.
perhaps weed out a lot of the other
Hmm.
applicants? But
Sure.
do you think that's a better kind of selection mechanism?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I was listening to Naval on a podcast with, I think it was Chris Williamson, and he talks about how with like almost everything in life, you actually don't only achieve mastery by sheer like time spent doing something, but it's also based on iterations. And although it's funny talking about mastery in terms of a relationship, um, it kind of sucks, almost sucks to say because I'm in my like first relationship and I want this to go far. But I truly believe that one thing that I did, and part of the reason why this is my first relationship, is because I'd go on dates with girls where I was really honest with myself. I'm like, hey, I could take this somewhere. I'd go on a second or a third or a fourth date, but I'd be like, no, I really don't want to start something, play along, and then have to break up with them. I had to go meet another girl. I had to go on another date and finally find someone who checks a lot more boxes. And it may seem cruel and kind of brutal to like really be out there as if like you got a criteria, but straight up, like there are some things that should be non-negotiables for you. Everyone knows what they are for themselves, but there are standards which either society or your friends or others will tell you don't matter. or like you're maybe a misogynist or evil or this or that for that. But I'm telling you, like everyone's got their own preferences. It's subjective, right? You can't say there's a right or wrong, and you have to stay true to yourself. Um, and also, I mean, I found with the majority of people that I know, they always have a little bit of a dip. But I think it's dangerous that there's like a very, very big dip and you never climb again, which is
Okay.
like a big fear that I have. I feel like right now in my relationship, we're pretty much kind of climbing back up again and things, are getting better and better and better. There's a time, close to a month ago, roughly, where like, yeah, we were getting in a lot of fights. There's a lot of arguments, a lot of misunderstanding. And if things don't continue to get better, I think both parties know where things will probably end up. Um, and actually touching on it, you didn't ask it, but it's always going to be, by the way, a two-person effort. Like you can be in there giving it your best, but if your partner isn't there willing to change themselves and grow and admit, say sorry and admit they've done things wrong, it's not going to last. And like, you may as well kind of cut your losses sooner rather than later. Um, so yeah, I hope that someone answered your question.
Totally answered the question. And I think that's a topic we could talk about forever, but I do want to make sure I hit
Mhm.
on different stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So tell me about your vision with YouTube because I started YouTube
Mhm.
and it's been a kind of a passion thing, but also
Mhm.
there's obviously a ton of opportunity in it. And so
Sure.
I'm pursuing it and it's awesome. It's this cool dualistic
Mhm.
endeavor. And so my question is, why did you start YouTube?
Sure. I think I think the reason that we're speaking right now and the reason that somebody's watching this video is the exact reason why I started YouTube. And if I'm going to explain a little bit more. I know it sounds so cryptic and mysterious in my explanation. But taking a step back, the whole reason that I'm able to connect with guys like you who are really similar and who are interesting, yeah, we've not been able to like talk that much. We both have busy lives. But the fact is, a connection was made that otherwise would have probably never been created, ever. Right? I'm not in the States, you're not in Canada, right? I've not, I probably wouldn't see you on the airport. And even if I did, I don't know if I'd stop and talk to you. There's something that I posted that caught your eye and something that you posted and said to me that caught my eye. And that was the reason that we've been able to make this connection. I know for me, almost everywhere I've been able to get to so far in life has been, at least recently, in the past 1 to 2 years, has been because of the internet. And I'd say close to, maybe a quarter or half of those opportunities and people I've met and things I've done are due to YouTube. I mean, the reason I'm able to coach guys who I see right now getting positions as setters and almost as closers is because of my YouTube, right? I'm able to demonstrate some of my sales skill. I truly believe like every single person watching this, you are a unique person. There's nobody else quite like you. And I'm sure Liam, talks about this. I'm sure he has a very similar mindset when it comes to YouTube. There is no such thing as someone who can have it's not, there's never going to be someone who has the same YouTube channel. Why does that matter? Because there will be those people out there who want to work with you and learn from you because of your name, right? Because you are you, not because you have a great logo and because you have a cool looking website. No, it's the opposite. It's because you're the most raw, authentic version of you with your faults and your strengths and your weaknesses and everything. That is exactly what people like. And I know we talked about this the first time we spoke, and Naval talks about it. I mean, authenticity eliminates all competition, and it's completely true, right? When you get to a point with your personal brand and YouTube is a platform to promote that and build it, and you get to a point where people simply want to work with you because of your name, the same way people want to go ahead and wear Lululemon because it is Lululemon, even though Aloe and other brands may exist, and to be fair, they're great competitors. There are people who will probably love Lululemon so much they'll always wear it, no matter what. I can give them something the same quality for half the price. They'll probably still buy Lululemon. That's a strength. Having the same kind of, almost cult like following. And not to say I'm trying to build a cult. The point is, there are people who will be able to benefit from what you share with them because you're very authentic and you're yourself. That's really cool. And for, I think, guys like Liam and myself, we're natural born leaders. I've always wanted to be the leader on my team, the captain, the guy who's, calling the shots and this and that. YouTube is just an extension of that. Talking to people and sharing my thoughts, no matter how wrong they may be sometimes, doesn't matter. I love it. Like, this is my shit. It gets me going. It gets me excited. And the best thing is reading the comments of people who are,
Mm,
who were in a similar situation that you were in, or who are currently in a similar situation, those who are older, younger, whatever. And they just say thank you. That is the coolest thing ever. Straight up. So I gave you a bunch of reasons as to
Yeah.
like and kind of the goals with YouTube, but it's to build a personal brand, to be able to help a lot of people. It's really what it is.
Yeah. And I think it's so powerful because I don't know if you ever fame is the ultimate business model. It's like Conor McGregor, the Jenners, all of them can sell
Yeah,
anything. And the only
100%.
thing about that is it's such a long-term game that most
Hmm.
people just aren't willing to play because of that simple fact. But my viewpoint is that you can hop on these platforms, literally be yourself. Like the
Yeah,
actual
exactly.
strat is be yourself,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
ironically is the most fun
Yeah,
thing to do. So it
yeah,
just
exactly.
becomes this awesome, fun process that is really, really long. And then one day you're able to profit from your own identity, like your true
Yeah,
identity.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's so cool.
That's so cool. It is so cool. 100%.
So yeah, YouTube is sick. I also wanted to touch on how do you feel like sales has
Hmm.
influenced just your day to day, not just obviously in a business
Sure,
sense,
sure.
it's obvious that sales is pivotal, but more
Hmm.
so in those kind of interpersonal, maybe a conversation with mom, maybe a
Hmm. Hmm.
conversation with
Hmm.
your girlfriend, maybe
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're in the supermarket, whatever it is, where you've thought, oh, this I used a sales tactic there, or
Sure,
my
sure.
sales skills really came in clutch here. Tell me
Mhm.
about that.
Yeah, I love that question so much. Oh my God, I can talk about this all day. Let me ask you a really quick question to kind of clap back. A lot of people think that sales is like convincing. You tell, 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 tell. Would you say, Liam, nowadays in 2025, sales is more so convincing and telling people things, or are you selling based on asking very good, effective questions?
Well, I think it's obvious that you know the answer to this, but
Yeah,
it's
I just want to
without a doubt.
demonstrate. I
It
want to
is with
demonstrate.
yeah,
Yeah.
well done. It is without a doubt asking questions, and you realize that you're actually in control when you're asking the questions. So,
110%. And
good question.
once again, I'm going to ask you one more question. Why is it that it's so much more powerful to ask people questions to be able to sell them than to just tell them something? Why is it so much more powerful?
Well, one of the things is people love it makes them feel important. And so when it makes them feel important. And so when you're asking the questions, it's kind of like you're throwing the ball into their side of the court.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when you're on the other side, you're in the position of power.
Mhm.
Does that
Exactly.
make
And
sense?
actually, to add on to exactly what you said, not only does it make them feel important, but they are the ones who are actually coming to their own conclusion.
Right.
I mean, I hate nothing more as a child or as a teenager than my mom telling me to clean my room. I mean, I can do it myself, mom. I can come to that conclusion myself. I can smell and see my room. Let me take care of it. Don't tell me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think people hate being told what to do. And there's a reason why people hate authority in that way. Right? The police officer doesn't, oftentimes they kind of tell you a lot of what to do. Get out the car, hands behind your back. Maybe that's an extreme example. But I think that what I've learned to do in my everyday life is just be able to ask questions. And I think there's, it's kind of a funny, it's not even a funny story. There's a guy in my sales office before, he's one of the managers, and he took this to the extreme. I mean, like you'd talk to him and you're like, hey man, like, what's your I'm not even joking. I'd be like, hey man, like what's a good burger place you can recommend? It's like, what do you think? Like he would never answer a question. He'd just be so in the sales mindset where
Mm-hmm.
it's like he would only ask questions. Like, dude, you don't have to close me on like a burger right now.
Yeah.
Like, chill, chill. But that's maybe the extreme. But like, I think when it comes to important things where I really want to help somebody, I now know how to sometimes tell somebody something and convince them, but usually I now know how to ask questions in the right order at the right time, the right tonality that will have someone come to their own conclusion and they'll be really confident about it. I can sell people on a lot of different ideas, or I've learned how to do it a lot better. Not 100%, right? Home run or whatever hit percentage. I don't know baseball terms that well, but I've been able to get a lot better at it. And I think it's very strong because what I used to do is to tell people a lot of things and try and convince them to get my way. And what I've started to do now is what I just said. I'm able to have people come out of a conversation with me feeling empowered, excited, happy, and they feel like they convinced themselves of this. I didn't tell them anything. I was just them. They're kind of guiding them along the way with my questions, but they're the ones with the answers. So that's probably the number one thing I've been able to learn. And everyone who's watching this, you can go and try it. Like go and experiment. Instead of telling somebody something, ask yourself, what three questions in what order can I ask someone to have them come to the same conclusion? It's not easy.
Mm.
When you have no sales experience, it's not easy. But there's almost always one or two or three questions in a row you can ask that lead from one to another, and boom, you get that person to admit to something themselves that you wanted them to admit to.
Yeah, and I can't think of an example, but I've noticed that the best, it's kind of like question one leads you to question two, which leads you to question three, which then leads you to the desired answer.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
it's also like the more unexpected question one, like the more unexpected it is that you go from question to question, the harder it actually hits and clicks in their mind once
Yeah.
the answer is
Yeah.
actually revealed. So
Exactly.
I can't name an example right now, but I'm pretty sure you
hmm
know what I'm saying.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. And like
Yeah.
you learn in sales, like actually super easy examples. Like usually when it comes to like selling biz ops and like people learning businesses, you'll usually ask them a series of questions, which is very effective. You'll usually ask them, you know, how long have they looked into achieving XYZ goal? Okay, they've looked into it for let's say 5 years. What have you tried during those 5 years? I've tried this and this and this. Okay. And if you've been trying this and this and this for the past 5 years, what's been preventing you from getting to that goal? You now know all that. And
Mm-hmm.
the very last thing that you do is, you pretty much give them a little bit of a slap. If this and this and this is what you've been doing for the past 5 years, what happens if you don't make any kind of a change? You're not telling them that they're going to stay stuck and they're going to keep on making no money or broke or stay at their 9 to 5 because that's what they've just told you. But you simply ask them, look, if you keep on doing the exact same thing after this sales call that you've been doing for the past 5 years, where will you be? Most people who have a brain cell or two will tell you, I'll be in the same spot. And you're like, yeah, how do you feel about that? Not too good. Why not? Man, I want to change in my life. Yeah, we talked about it a second ago. You want to have all these big goals. It's like, what's got to be different? And like these people start coming up with their own solutions. Man, I've got to be able to make more time, blah, blah, blah. And like you're having a really impactful conversation. It's all strategic, it's all planned, it's all in order. I can't ask the last question first. It's not going to work. All right, it's all got to happen in order. So no, I mean
Yeah.
that's how I would kind of that's just an example that comes to my mind. It's information that
Yes.
builds on information that builds on information. It
Yes.
all works beautifully, and then boom, you recap and ask a very powerful question usually. So
Yeah.
it's cool.
And just to package that all in, the beauty, like questions are just so powerful, and also by extension just it's just beautiful how you can direct a conversation without putting any pressure on anyone. It's not what people think, sales in general. It's just questions. And so if you can ask the right
Exactly.
questions, you can
Exactly.
pretty much you can lead someone basically anywhere.
Have so much control as well in the conversation. Like you decide
Exactly.
exactly where it goes. Yeah.
Well said. Well, Michael, it was awesome having you on the
Yeah.
channel. You can
Thank you.
plug your stuff real quick, like I did on your channel. But yeah, I made a video on Michael's channel, so go check that
Yeah.
out. But there will probably be more videos like this in the future, just random stuff,
100%.
spontaneous
Yeah.
videos that we just come up with on the spot. So, Michael, plug your stuff and we'll hop
Yeah.
off.
No, it was really cool. Liam texted me today. We jumped on the call. Boom. Next thing you know, this video is done.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, subscribe to me. I mean, the link will be below. I post YouTube content, in some way, shape, or form, definitely pretty similar to Liam. A lot of sales focused stuff. And my TikTok is below. All right. So if you're interested in, listening to me yap and be a bit more unfiltered, you can also feel free to check out that stuff. But yeah, the video where I actually interview Liam, the man himself, if you want to learn a little bit more about him, go to my channel, watch that video. Otherwise, definitely subscribe to the man himself.
Yes, sir. All right.
Cool.
Peace.
Awesome. Bye.